Hey guys, what's up? Hope you're all doing good. So last week I spoke about life insurance and basically how important it is for you to have this in place to ensure that, you know, in the case of a death or passing away, your family is looked after in terms of like financial needs. So basically, if you were to pass, you know, they wouldn't have any financial worries because you have this insurance in place. Now today I want to move on and talk about wills, because wills are just as important as getting life insurance in place. Okay, so first of all, like, what is a will? So a will is basically a legal document that allows you to dictate how you want your assets to be distributed at your death. So basically it allows you to say, you know, how you want your money, your property, your, you know, businesses, insurance, everything. Basically it allows you to say how you want that stuff to be shared out amongst your beneficiaries. If you do not have a will in place, unfortunately there are some laws in place and certain rules that will dictate how this is, you know, spread out, whether it's given to a charity or otherwise. Basically, if you don't have a will in place, you know, you don't get to say what happens with your assets. Okay, so in terms of who needs a will, first and foremostly, you need to be 18 years or over, okay? This is the rule. You must be 18 years old in order to draw up a legally binding will. I believe that everyone, or basically majority of people, should create a will, and this is regardless of whether you feel that you have, you know, a lot of assets or not, or whether you have children or, you know, a spouse or partner. I feel like it's important for everybody to draw up a will, just because do you not want to be the one to control, like, you know, what happens with your belongings after you pass away? So you're the one that whilst you're alive, you know, you work to get certain things in place and make certain things happen. And even if you don't have a lot of assets in terms of like maybe money or property, I'm sure you have some valuable belongings that are, you know, are worth something to you. Would you not want to be the one to decide like where that goes or who that goes to? I know I definitely want to be, because if I've worked for something during my life or I cherish something at some point, I definitely want to be the one to say like where it goes after I'm no longer able to hold on to it. As well as that, in your will you can obviously state like, you know, what you want to happen to your body at the point of death. So whether you want to be buried or cremated, these are certain wishes that you can state in your will. And so you can see it's quite important for a number of reasons to create a will. Now let's talk about how to create a will and make it legally binding, because at the end of the day you can create a document and call it a will, but it's not really a will unless you put certain things in place like the structure, you know, making sure it's signed and so on and so forth. So let's talk about how to create a will and make sure that it's legally binding, so that, you know, when you do go on to pass, unfortunately, certain things are in place to say, you know, where your assets are going to go. Right, so first of all, in terms of getting the document drawn up, this is not something that you need to get a legal firm or a solicitor to do for you, right? But what I would say is that if your case is not straightforward and it's a bit complex, or maybe you're a bit unsure in terms of, you know, how to get the structure right, I would say try and get an online will created, or at least a template from a law firm, just to make sure that you've got the structure right and making sure that you're covering everything that needs to be included within a will. So I'll use myself as an example. When creating my will, I didn't get a solicitor to draw up for me, but what I did was get an online will from Slater and Gordon. So essentially it's like a template. So they ask you a number of questions, and by the end of it you would have listed all your beneficiaries, all the assets that you want to be included in the will, basically who's going to execute it, and basically all that stuff to do with creating a will. So I definitely advise, like, even if your will is not going to be a complex one and it's straightforward, I would say try and get a template like that, or an online will from, you know, a recognized legal firm, or just any credible legal firm or solicitor, just to make sure that you've got everything right, using the right terms, using the right structure, etc. Slater and Gordon actually have a code currently available, which if you sign up to their mailing list, and basically they'll send you this code that you can use to get a free will online. So yeah, definitely make sure you utilize that if you haven't created a will. I think that's a good way to go, just to make sure that, you know, as I said, things like structure and wording and all that kind of stuff is covered for you and you don't have to worry about it. So secondly, as I've already mentioned, in your will you want to include all of your assets. So that is everything: your savings, money, you know, any properties that you have, any even insurance policies, personal possessions, shares, just basically everything. Anything you can classify as, you know, a possession of yours or an asset, you want to include that in your will. Third, you want to include the names of all your beneficiaries. So your beneficiaries are basically the people that you want to benefit from your will. So who are the people that you want to get something in the case of your passing? So you want to list all their names, and at the point of doing this also, you're also going to state like when and how you want them to benefit from the will. So for example, let's say you wanted to give your sibling a lump sum of money. Let's say you wanted to give them, you know, £10,000. You would state in the will that you want to give your sibling, you know, £10,000 maybe once they hit 18 or 21 years of age. Obviously there doesn't have to be an age limit on it, but, you know, that option is there, and you'd want to state those kind of things within your will. Number 4, as well as listing your assets and your possessions, you also want to mention like if you have any children, like young children to look after. So let's say in the case of a death, who's going to look after your children if you don't have a spouse or partner to do so? You want to list these kind of things in your will to make sure that, again, at the time of passing, you have adequate care covered for your young children. Number 5, you want to appoint executors or trustees who basically are going to carry out the instructions in your will. So your executor or your trustee doesn't even have to be a professional. So when I say a professional, it doesn't need to be a solicitor or, you know, an accountant or somebody like that. It could literally be your relative, a friend, anyone close to you, just someone that you trust to be able to, you know, execute the wishes of your will. It's advisable to list up to 4 people as an executor for your will. Obviously, you don't have to have 4 people, but it is advised that you have at least more than one, because like in the case one of them passes, you want to make sure that somebody else is going to be available to carry out the instructions in your will. Number 6, your will must be signed in front of 2 witnesses, and those 2 witnesses must also sign the will. This is what really makes it legally binding. If your will's not signed in front of witnesses, then it's just a piece of paper. Like, it doesn't mean anything. At the point of death, like, those things that you've stated in that will not be acted upon. Okay, so you want to make sure that you have your 2 witnesses as you sign off that will. Now, number 7, and finally, storage and maintenance. Okay, so once you've created your will and signed it, it can be stored in a number of different places. You know, it can be stored in your home, it could be stored with your solicitor, it could be stored in the bank with an accountant, it could be stored in a will storage location. Like, you can search them online, there's quite a few, but yeah, there are quite a number of options in terms of, you know, storing your will. So you just need to look up which one you find most comfortable, most suitable for yourself. Obviously, tell your executors, you know, where you are leaving the will, so that, you know, again, at the point of death, they know what to do, they know where to find it. Update your will from time to time, okay? So we know that things change like all the time. You may not be married today, but, you know, in a couple of years' time or even next year, you may be married. And so obviously you'd want to include your partner in that will, wouldn't you? So yeah, you just want to make sure that you're updating your will as and when required to make sure that it's still relevant to your life and it still says, you know, what you want to happen. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how to create a will. A lot of these steps that I've gone through, obviously, if you get a template from a legal firm or you basically create a will online, all these things will be covered. And so that's why I strongly advise getting a will template or, you know, a will online done by a legal firm, because at least, you know, you're making sure you're covering everything that you need to cover in the way that you need to cover it. So yeah, this has been a quick short video from me. You know, I hope you've gained some value from it, and hopefully you see the importance of creating a will. If you haven't done so, you know, make sure that you do it ASAP. It is a bit of a long-winded document, but at least, you know, once you've done it, it's done, and updating it isn't too painful. But yeah, I hope you've gained value from this video. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up. Please do also subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and also turn on your bell notifications so that you're notified each and every time that I upload, which is now on a Thursday and a Sunday. So thank you for watching, and I'll catch you later. Bye.